Get out of the car!
And then you
I will light you up. Get out!
Wow.
Now!
Wow.
Get out of the car!
Really, for a failure to signal.
I will light you up, he said. That was dash cam video of 28-year-old Sandra Bland's arrest during a traffic stop on July 10th. 3 days after that traffic stop, Bland was dead in a Texas jail cell. But who's to blame for what happened? Sonny Hostin is here, CNN's legal analyst and a former federal prosecutor. Also, Harry Houck, who is a retired NYPD detective. Mark Lamont Hill, CNN political commentator. They all join us this evening. So I want to get everyone's reaction to this dash cam footage. Harry, you first.
Okay, I don't see anything wrong with the officer's actions until we get to the point where he asked her to take this, put the cigarette out. And then at that moment, when she says no, he asks her to get out of the car. Now, it appears from the video that he did it because she would not put the cigarette out. But I'm not a mind reader, but that's what it appears to be. Officer does have the choice to bring anybody out of a vehicle when he stops them for his own safety and to write the summons outside of the vehicle. So the officer could have done that. The whole thing is that she was very arrogant from the beginning, very dismissive of the officer. All right, she was very
She said,
uncooperative.
I'm in my car. Why do I have to put out my cigarette?
Well, I'm not debating the cigarette issue.
Maybe he's allergic. Who knows?
You know, there's a possibility, yes.
Let's go ahead.
Well, and I think that's the issue here. You know, who is the trained professional? When you get a badge and a gun, that gives you power. And with that power comes the responsibility, I think, to de-escalate a situation like that. And what we saw was an officer trying to exert power on her by asking her to put her cigarette out. Guess what, Don? I checked the penal code. There is no law against smoking a cigarette in your car. You can't arrest someone for doing that. So when he asked her to get out of the car, that was improper. That was inappropriate, and he failed to disclose it. He is the professional. He is the professional.
She was being arrested because a summons is in lieu of arrest. Right, and the fact that he can't ask her to get out of the car.
He wasn't giving her a summons, though. He was giving her a warning.
We don't know that to the end.
But he knew that.
We don't know that to the end.
But he knew that.
We don't know that to the end. I'm sure he wrote her a summons.
Yeah.
After the arrest, she wrote her a summons.
Go ahead, Mark.
I found this video to be disturbing, disgusting, unsettling. I mean, really on multiple levels. This woman simply was in her car and had the audacity to not be entirely deferential to the officer. She doesn't have to kiss the officer's butt. She has a right to be irritated. A lot of us get irritated when we get pulled over. This officer comes to her and says, is there something wrong? You seem like you have an attitude. He's trying to pick a fight with her. He essentially says, why are you upset? And when she says, look, this is why I'm ticked off. However, you still have a job to do. You're still going to give me the ticket. So just give me the ticket. You have a right to say that. Sometimes police officers act as if you're not completely kowtowing and deferential, that somehow you're violating a law. He asked her to put out a cigarette. She very accurately pointed out that she didn't have to put out a cigarette. She's in her car. And at that point, he threatens to drag her out to, quote unquote, light her up. This type of violence is a reminder that state violence, number one, is exacted not just on men but on women, but particularly black women who have always been vulnerable in these spaces. But this is a perfect example of exactly how vulnerable black women are in public space to law enforcement. This did not have to happen. As Sonny said, this was entirely preventable.
Mark, even if
I have a right to have
even if he de-escalated the whole situation, she would have still kept on coming at that officer the way she did.
She
did not want to cooperate with that officer.
I have a right to, Harry.
Oh, I'm sorry. You've got to cooperate with the police officer, Mark. You have to.
She wasn't being uncooperative.
Yes, she was. She was being uncooperative. She goes, I don't have to show you my ID. Didn't you hear her? I don't have to show you my ID. I don't have to tell you who I am.
That's not what she said.
That's what she was saying. It's right in the video. She did.
No, listen, Harry, hold on, Harry. She said, I only have to show you my ID.
Yeah.
She said that. She goes, I don't have to tell you my name. I don't have to show you my ID. That's exactly what she said inside the car.
She said, I'm a little bit irritated, but it doesn't stop you from giving me a ticket. So, and then he says, are you done? He said, you asked me if what was wrong. And then she goes on and talks to a cigarette. I don't see anything about an ID unless that happened earlier. Oh, I refuse to talk to other than I said, oh, here he goes. She says, do I have the right now to step out or I remove you? And she says, I refuse to talk to you other than to identify myself.
And that is actually correct.
That's the opposite of what Harry just said.
Okay, all right, Mark.
So Harry, that's the opposite of what you just said.
All right, I thought that's what you said, to talk. Okay, I'll give you that.
One thing I think it's important to note, I teach street law classes. I talk to my husband. I talk to my children. When you have a police encounter, you want to make that encounter as short and sweet as possible.
Exactly.
You do want to comply.
Yes.
You want to be as not combative at all. But in looking at that video, again, the officer is the professional in that situation. He baited her. He lost his cool. And I think
Well, I don't think he baited her at all.
He baited her by
I
asking her
think she just
to
wanted
put
to be.
her
She just
cigarette
wanted to be
out. He
uncooperative.
baited her.
She had a
Harry,
problem
and you know
with the
he
officer.
did.
She had a problem with being stopped. She didn't like the fact that she was being stopped. Her whole arrogant attitude, and that stopped. Now the officer should not have pulled her.
Okay,
out of the
but
car.
hang on, listen. I want everybody to listen. Because I think, Mark, hang on, Mark, hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry,
hang
man.
on,
I'm
no.
about to turn up,
I
man.
think that Mark.
This is what police do, man.
That's what I'm trying to get to that point,
This
Mark.
is not what police
because
do.
Harry has a point here. Whether Harry is wrong or right, when you're in that situation, not saying that you listen. I'm not blaming her up for anything. This is for everyone who is watching. If you, as Sonny is saying, if you are being stopped by a police officer, whether that police officer is right or wrong, or as what's his name? Lindsey Graham says, a jackass. Don't you do what he says until afterwards. Then you can sue him. Then you're still alive. Then you're not beat up on the ground.
That is the smart thing to do. Clearly.
It doesn't mean the officer's right. I'm not saying the officer is right.
Everybody thinks it's okay to resist arrest.
So here, this is my question. My question is,
when she was in her car, Harry, she wasn't resisting
all of the
arrest.
attention,
Come
Sonny,
on.
that's being placed on these incidents
She wasn't
around the
resisting
country,
arrest.
do you think that is giving people a false sense of rights that they have that
Yes.
they really don't have?
She had every right
Why
to
is
tell
that?
him that you.
There's a false
no,
sense.
Harry.
Let it
because
finish. Let it
even-
finish. I promise everyone will get
I think
in. Go
even an
ahead.
article came out, and I don't want to say who wrote the article, but I'm not exactly sure right now. But the fact is, they even told people that, you don't have to show your ID to police officers. There are things out, and people are seeing things like that, and people actually think that I talk to saying that, no, if a police officer stops me for something, and I don't think he's stopping me for the right reason, then I don't have to cooperate with the officer.
Yeah.
But that is wrong. The law says, just like you said, Don, when a police officer stops you, do whatever he says and then deal with it later.
Okay, Mark, I just want the truth here, and I think that people should not be dying because or getting beat up for some right that they think they have that they don't have. That's it. So go ahead.
I refuse to legitimize police violence against people by telling them that if they behave differently, maybe they won't die. Harry said maybe you won't end up on the ground. Yes, there are strategies we can use to survive, but the fact that we live in a world where we have to deploy strategies to not be murdered or killed or assaulted by police unlawfully is absurd. Harry is right. An officer does have the right to pull someone out of the car for their own safety. He didn't feel unsafe from that woman in that moment.
He sure did.
This was about
We don't know.
and what Harry's calling arrogant, and what Harry is calling arrogance, I'm calling dignity. Black people have a right to assert their dignity in public, and just because it doesn't cohere with what police want doesn't mean they're being arrogant or disrespectful.
Mark, listen, I got to go. But do you think that this was racial? Do you think that this was racial?
Yes, I do, and I think the sky is blue. All of it.
Go ahead, Harry. Do you think it was?
There's no indication this is racial at all. None whatsoever.
Right.
But
this happens to white women all the time.
I don't think we have.
But the whole thing,
I don't
Mark,
think
with
we
you
have
is every
enough
time a white
information,
officer
Mark,
stops
to
somebody
say
black
that.
and we talk about something, it's a racial issue.
Go ahead,
I don't
Sonny.
think we have enough information to call this a racial issue, but I think we have enough information to know that this officer overstepped his bounds. He was the professional in the situation, and he escalated this rather than de-escalated. I also think it's important to note that this is separate and apart from what happened in the jail cell, and that we also need to talk about and investigate.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. I appreciate all of you. Up next, Donald Trump.